Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai, Gantara, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jai Shishi Gauranitai, Jai Shishi Radha Govardhana, Krishna Balaram Giri Govardhan ki jai, Jai Brinda Devi, Tulsi Devi Maharani ki jai, Shri Gopastami ki jai, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. So today is a wonderful day on the Vaishnava calendar during this auspicious month of Kartik. Today is Gopastami. This is the day when Krishna comes of age, he becomes a bigger boy, and he is given permission to take out big cows rather than he previously was taking out the calves. Also today we need to mention there's three auspicious personalities also. They chose today as their disappearance day as Dhananjaya Pandit, who was a follower of Nityananda Prabhu. He also accompanied him to West Bengal when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Nityananda to Bengal to preach at Dhananjaya 10. I'm going to be very brief with these personalities because of the time factor. And in the Ganesha Pika, his name is Vasudam. He's actually one of the principal 12 Gopas in Krishna Lila. And he chose this very auspicious day to re-enter the Nitya Lila, the eternal pastimes, the eternal Gopastami pastime today. So he chose today, and we remember him with great respect and great love. And also today is the disappearance day Gadadhara Das Goswami, also another extraordinary personality in the Lila of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's not to be mistaken with Gadadhara of the Panchatattva. He's a separate personality. He is described as the Yukti, or the effulgence, an incarnation of effulgence of Srimati Radharani, or a gopi called Chandrakanta. She's also, Prabhupada describes her as an expansion of Srimati Radharani's effulgence. And he's also another personality, Purnananda, Srila Prabhupada describes that gopi as Balaram's girlfriend. So those two personalities are the eternal forms of that great personality. He was also a wonderful preacher. It's described in the CC that he delivered many kazis. He's famous for knocking on the kazi's door late in the evening, and his process was very simple. Please chant Hare Krishna. And the kazi said, you know what time it is? I'll chant Hare Krishna tomorrow morning. And yes, you've begun your chanting. He was so happy so he was a great devotee, and we honour him also today. Remember him. And the other exalted personality is Srinivasacharya. Srinivasacharya and his cohorts, his dear partners in crime, Narottam Das Thakur, Shamananda Pandit. These are our great heroes. They were the first travelling Sankirtan party, isn't it? The direct disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Goswamis, they penned the ecstatic Bhakti Shastris, and for the first time these exalted devotees, they were ordered by Srila Jiva Goswami. They studied under the care of Srila Jiva Goswami, and they resided at the Radha Damodar Temple, a very, very sacred place. Like I mentioned last year, this is where our Srila Prabhupada also resided and launched his worldwide mission from Radha Damodar Temple also, following in the footsteps of Srinivasacharya and Narottam Das Thakur and Shamananda Pandit. And they took the books. The books were stolen, but they were recovered again. And Srinivasacharya caught the culprits and delivered the whole kingdom, including the king. They all became Vaishnavas, initiated a whole lot of them. Also, the three of them established the very first Gopanim festival, Katori, and they're very famous for that, installed deities there. So these are our benefactors and great acharyas. We remember them dearly and try to learn more about them. Today is their ecstatic disappearance day. So that's Dhananjaya Pandit, Gadadhara Das Goswami and Srinivasacharya. So today is Gopastami, so we'll read a very famous Gopastami verse that's traditionally read on this day. This is from the 10th canto, 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So because of the time fact, I'll just chant it once. We'll get one prabhu and one Vaishnavi to chant, or one Maharaj. Sri Shuka Uvacha Tatascha Poganda Vayeshito Braje Prabhu Vatusto Pashu Palasamato Gaschayanto Sakit Bisamantade Vrindavanam Punyamati Vachakatu. Prabhus Vacha Tatascha Poganda Vayeshito Braje Abhuvatusto Pasu Parasamato Gaschalayanto Sakibi Samanpade Vrindavana. Translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, When Lord Ram and Lord Krishna attained the age of Purganda, 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Purport: Lord Krishna wanted to encourage his cowherd boyfriends who had been swallowed up by Aghasura and then stolen by Lord Brahma. Therefore the Lord decided to bring them into the palm tree forest called Talavan, where there were many delicious ripe fruits. Since Lord Krishna's spiritual body had apparently grown slightly in age and strength, the senior men of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, decided to promote Krishna from the task of herding calves to the status of a regular cowherd boy. He would now take care of the full-grown cows, bulls and oxen. Out of great affection, Nanda Maharaj had previously considered Krishna too small and immature to take care of full-grown cows and bulls. It is stated in the Katika Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana, Suklata Smikati Ketu Smita Gopastami Bude Tad Dinad Vasudeva Vud Gopa Purvan Tu Vatsapaha. Quote: the 8th lunar day of the bright fortnight of the month of Kartik is known by authorities as Gopastami. From that day, Lord Vasudeva served as a cowherd, whereas previously he had tended the calves. End quote. The word Pade indicates that Lord Krishna blessed the earth by walking on her surface with his lotus feet. The Lord wore no shoes or other footgear, but walked barefoot in the forest, giving great anxiety to the girls of Vrindavan, who feared that his soft lotus feet would be injured. Translation: in Sukadeva Goswami said, when Lord Ram and Lord Krishna attained the age of Purganda, 6 to 10, while living in Vrindavan, the cowherd men allowed them to take up the task of tending the cows. Engaging thus in the company of their friends, the two boys rendered the land of Vrindavan most auspicious by imprinting upon it the marks of their lotus feet. Om Ganati Mirandasya Ganam Ganam Salakaya Saksus Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Srila Prabhupada, I'll just quickly read it. I'll read a couple little Shastric quotes to set the mood, I guess. This is from the Nectar Devotion. Srila Prabhupada writes that this is after Kali was punished. Kali was punished very severely, and then asked him to leave the place and go elsewhere. Krishna said at that time that cows are worshipped even by demigods, and he practically demonstrated how to protect the cows. At least people who are in Krishna consciousness should follow in his footsteps and give all protection to the cows. Cows are worshipped not only by the demigods. Krishna himself worshipped the cows on several occasions, especially on the days of Gopastami and Govardhana Puja. Oh well, I'll have to go solo. No, bring back. So, this is a pastime. Thank you very much. Vayu is joining into the party. So this pastime, shall I read one more? This is also one we often quote. This is from Bhagavatam 10.8, text 16, purport. For the cowherd men and the cows, Krishna is a supreme friend. Therefore he is worshipped by the prayer Namo Brahmaya Devaya Go Brahmana Itaya Cha. His first business is to give all comfort to the cows and the brahmanas. In fact, comfort for the brahmanas is secondary, and comfort for the cows is his first concern. So this is the culture of cow protection. Originates from this sacred place, because now we have many different cultures in the world that have different ideas of what to do with cows. We won't mention Western culture because there's no culture at all. The cow is seen as some machine that produces milk, and if it doesn't produce milk, you produce hamburgers. That's basically the Western culture. Then we have Indian culture, which is a bit of a mix these days, and also becoming degraded in some places. Cows are now let out when they become unproductive into the streets, where they eat rubbish and all sorts of horrible things, and they suffer, and they're hit by cars or run over by trucks. So even India, which is the home of Dharma, where cows have always been honoured, that's become... and then you've got Vedic culture, which is the ideal culture, where cows are properly worshipped and protected. And then you've got the supreme culture, the Vrindavan culture. And that's what ultimately we're interested in, because you have to look where we are. So the sentiment, I want to touch on this point today, of cow culture comes from that place. And sentiment, the primary meaning of sentiment is opinion or idea, so we need to know the correct opinion, the correct idea, so we can develop the right sentiment, so that if we become sentimental towards cows in a particular way, it has to be based on this correct sentiment. Otherwise you can become sentimental over a kitten or any sort of cute animal, and be attracted in that way. But we want to be attracted and affectionate toward cows based on this culture as given to us by Srila Prabhupada, because we didn't have a clue before, at least most of us. We thought cows were what I mentioned earlier, which I don't want to mention again, something that was not very nicely treated. Cows are very individual. The GBC laws that are given on cows are very much in the mood of the Vrindavan Leela. They recommend we name the cows, we count them every day. Krishna used to do this. He used to count his cows every day, name them, provide shelter, make sure they're fed properly, protected from the neighbours and so many other things. And they also incorporate some Western concepts as well, because we don't have 10,000 cowherd boys to help out. So normally the cows will be herded every day by the Krishna, Balaram, the cowherd boys to different various pastures, and they were kept in those areas by that manpower. They were herded. And often you hear in the Bhagavatam they would wander off, and like in the case when Lord Brahma stole the cowherd boys and a couple of calves that wandered away, Krishna said they were having lunch, and Krishna said, "No worry, I'll go and fetch them." And he went off and got them. So that would happen often, but the cowherd boys, they were like the fences. Now because of the situation when we have fences, there are cowherd boys. Electric fences and barbed wire, and that's to keep them in the areas, and we rotate them nicely. Sir Prabhu's on board now. He's doing a wonderful service at the back there, out of sight, but he's creating whole sections of separated pastures so the cows can have something fresh to go to every day, which they love to do. They don't like staying in one place. And also you protect the pastures. You don't overgraze them and stomp them down when they become unproductive. So, and we do that with the bulls, and Mahamantra does that with the milking herd and the pregnant cows as much as possible. And they love it. Sometimes when you see them going to their new fresh pasture for the day, they jump around and kick their back legs, and sometimes they do a whole lap of the whole thing, and they're very, very happy. So anyway, our dear Krishna is an eternal cowherd boy, and this pastime, this is eventuating from originally in Gokul, and Krishna was in Mahavan Gokul, and they were there for quite some time. I think it's described till Krishna was 3 years and 4 months. And the great personalities describe in the Padma Purana that they age quicker, about 1.5 times. So he was at the end of his Kumara age, and when they left Gokul, coming to that age. And it was interesting because there was a lot of not very nice things going on. There was demons appearing like Purtana, and the cart demon, and Trinavata, and also the cowherd boys. They were actually meeting about this, and they were a bit concerned. And there was also, they mentioned 2 big trees, Arjuna trees had fallen over, almost hurt the boys. And the head of the senior cowherd men, Upananda, he suggested maybe we should leave here and we should move to this wonderful place I know between here and Nandeshvara. There's a place called Vrindavan. There's beautiful sweet grasses. There's a fabulous mountain, Govardhan, and the Jamunas there, and it'll be a better place for us to go. So they had a meeting, and they said, yes, let's do it. And immediately they packed up their bullock carts. And it didn't take a long time. It's described that there and then that day they moved. There was no washing machines to load up and all sorts of other paraphernalia. It was quite just the necessities of life, and off they went. And the cows were at the front, and all the elderly, the ladies and the elderly men and children were on the bullock carts. Krishna Balaram was sitting on the cart with Mother Yasoda and Rohini. Very beautiful sight, and all the cows were put in the front. The cowherd men, I should say, had their bows and arrows on hand, because there was tigers and all sorts. They were there to defend the cows, actually, to protect the cows. And they had to travel north quite a bit to be able to cross the Jamuna, because there's no bridges in those days. So they went a fair way to, I think it was Bhadravan, and then they crossed, and Bhadravan, the cows crossed, and they travelled back down to Vrindavan. And this is where Krishna was becoming attracted to more and more to the cows. He'd ask his father, Nanda Maharaj, can I come with you? So Nanda Maharaj said, of course, and he'd take them out with a few of his friends, and they would go with the big cows, and they'd sit on the Nanda Maharaj's lap and the other his other brothers' laps and the other cowherd men's laps, and they would go out. And Mother Yasoda wasn't very happy with this. He's so little, the cows are so big, they have huge horns, like we see up there. This is such a nice place to sit. You've got the Vaishnavas and the cows. You can get a better view for life. Very, very auspicious. What to speak of their transcendental lordships gazing over us. So so she said, no, you can't go out. So she held them back. They were so disappointed. These little boys, they loved the cows, because they used to play around the cows and pretend to herd them like that. So then as time went on, they became a bit more anxious, and they started running away, trying to follow the cows and Nanda Maharaj, and they would get lost. And then end up playing around for a while, and then they'd find their way back home. And that caused more anxiety to Nanda and Yasoda, because now they're running off into the forest by themselves. So then they decided for a bit of a compromise, and this is before Gopastami, this is when they received the first initiation. They became, Vatsapas, the herders of calves. And that was a nice arrangement, because they wouldn't go too far and they wouldn't go for too long. And Mother Yasoda could sort of keep an eye on them. I think that she had this tower she could climb on. She could look out, and there they are. And she would send lunches out to them, and they would come home very early. It was a nice situation. But time was going on, spiritual time that is, was past, and Krishna was starting to transform, as mentioned in this wonderful verse, from his Kumara to Ponganda, who started to develop and becoming a bit more independent. He didn't like his mother dressing him anymore. She would half dress him, he would grab the clothes and run away and dress himself. I'm a big boy now. He's not a mummy. He was starting to change his mood. And they also noticed that he would sit on the laps of some of the brothers of Nanda Maharaj, and they would chat away on the quiet. Nanda Maharaj would notice he's chatting to this one and that one. He was curious, what are they talking about, And then he asked his brothers, what are they talking about? And they were a bit reluctant. And then his younger brother, I think one of 5, spilt the beans. He said, Krishna wants to herd the cows, the big cows. Nanda Maharaj was immediately in anxiety. And the word got around, even the cows heard that Krishna wanted to go out. And this caused a bit of a problem, because the cows were starting to refuse to go out, because Krishna wanted to go out as well. So they were sort of just putting their hooves down and holding their ground and staying in their stalls. So this became very problematic. So they had to call a very quick meeting, and they decided that Krishna perhaps was big enough now, he could take the big cows out. And they asked the Brahmins for an auspicious date, and it was one the very next day, which was ideal, and they had a very wonderful festival, and there was mantras chanted and all sorts of pomp. And which initiation are we doing now? Second initiation, Gopastami. So the first initiation, they were also initiated. They received their sticks, their bugles, their flutes, and their ropes. And the second initiation now was even more serious. They were going to get to herd the cows. Nanda Maharaj awarded Krishna a very beautiful jewel-studded stick, very beautiful stick. Mother Yasoda anointed tilak on him, and they were all ready to go out and herd the cows. This is wonderful moment in Vrindavan, very heart-wrenching for the residents of Vrindavan, because Krishna now was going to be gone all day, right into the dusk to early, practically evening. They would not see Krishna. They would only see him in the morning going out and coming back in the evening. So this is heart-wrenching for the residents, especially for Mother Yasoda. Her little baby was growing up. And there's a very beautiful description, which there's many descriptions, but one description which is, I'm making it quick today because we're going to stop early and we're all going to feed the cows, okay, before breakfast. So the class will be quite short. So it's described, this description is my favourite, on the outskirts of, I guess, of the homes. They were about to go out for the very first time. There was even some of the old men wanted to go out. Some of the gopis also dressed up. I heard in some temples in Vrindavan, Radharani is dressed as a cowherd boy today. They sort of wanted to go out and sneak out with the boys. So anyway, there's a very beautiful description at the gate. Mother Yasoda's there, Krishna's there. She's about to get down on her knees to give him a hug, goodbye. He says, no, Mata, you stand up. I want to hold you. I'm a big boy now. You stand up. And she looks down at Krishna. We can envision this as best as we can. He looks up at her. And the Mother Yasoda's eyes veer off a little bit to behind Krishna. All the cows are there. And they're all facing away, with their tails switching away. And their beautiful heads are turned towards Mother Yasoda. They're looking at Mother Yasoda and they're basically saying, it's our turn now, let him go. We've been waiting a long time. And then Krishna notices Mother Yasoda looking elsewhere, looking at the cows, and he also turns his head. It's the most beautiful picture. The back of Krishna, his head turning towards the cows, sweetly looking at the cows, and the cows with their heads turned looking at Krishna. And then Mother Yasoda and Krishna, they have to let go. And this is described by some of our acharyas as the very moment of Gopastami, the very moment. Mother Yasoda lets go of a baby Krishna, and he goes. And they will be gone all day now, the boys. They would take their lunches, they weren't delivered anymore, they'd have the lunch packed. One of their favourite pastimes, the boys, is eating. And they had 3 sources of food. Anyone know what they were? I'll tell you. They had their lunch packs. But it wasn't quite enough, even though they were transcendental lunch pack. Krishna had a transcendental spell on those lunch boxes. When you get to the bottom, they'd fill up again. But anyway, still wasn't enough. They had access to all the fruits of Vrindavan, and they were in season all year round, the most beautiful, gorgeous fruits. But still, that wasn't enough. So what did they do? They went and stole. That was a lot of fun. Their monkey friends, Srila Prabhupada describes them as the celebrated monkeys of Vrindavan. They were the advanced party. They'd send what was his name? Dali Lob, yes. He was the chief on the robbery team. he would get sent, and Krishna would tell him what to do. He said, I know what to do. I'm greedy for yoga. That's my name. Isn't it Dali Lob? That means greedy for yogurt. And he would go in first and jump all over the walls and ceiling, create havoc, and then the gopis would have to chase him out the door and up the road, and then the boys would come in, help fill up the bags, the sacks, and take off, and they'd meet up with the monkeys later and they'd share it out. So this was going on actually when they were pretty young actually, but not so much when they were cowherd boys. And the cows are so much part of. When I'm out of time, but I'll just quickly randomly read something. This is when, after Putana was killed, and this is what happened. When the gopis saw little Krishna fearlessly, this is in Krishna book chapter 6, when the gopis saw little Krishna fearlessly playing on Putana's lap, they very quickly came and picked him up. Mother Yasoda, Rohini, other elderly gopis immediately performed the auspicious rituals by taking the tail of a cow and circumambulating his body. The child was completely washed with the urine of a cow, and the dust created by the hooves of the cows were thrown all over his body. This was all just to save little Krishna from future inauspicious accidents. The transcendental body of Krishna did not require any protection, but to instruct us on the importance of the cow, the Lord was smeared all over with cow dung, washed with the urine of the cow, and sprinkled with the dust upraised by the walking of the cows. Very nice. There's plenty more, but we don't have time. Anyway, so today is a day generally where we put more energy into the cows. We feed them, we pat them, we scratch them. Normally all the goshalas are cleaned out, all the shelters are cleaned out. This culture, this sentiment that we want to develop more on New Govardhana, because we are New Govardhana. It's a festival that can be expanded and built upon. It's difficult for the festival organisers because they take on so much of Govardhana Puja. They're pretty much exhausted at this point. So I'll finish on this note, and then there's so much more to be said, so much more to be said about Mother Yasoda's cows, so many. We went over time. It's explained in the Gopal Champu. I was reading that a few nights ago. Srila Jiva Goswami says, if you had 10,000 mouths, right, and 1,000 years, you could barely describe one day's activity of Krishna and the cowherd boys. So, in other words, I've got no chance. I've given you a tiny little sample. There's so much more. This is a very beautiful diary entry of Srila Prabhupada. This is when he was on the Jaladuta in 1965, coming from India to America on September 13th, 1965. He famously wrote, quote, "O Lord Krishna, you are my eternal companion. Forgetting you, I have suffered the kicking of Maya, birth after birth. If today the chance to meet you occurs again, then surely I will be able to rejoin you. Oh my dear brother, in your company I will experience great joy once again, wandering about the fields and pastures. I will pass the entire day with you and tending the cows, joking with you and frolicking through so many forests of Braj. I will enjoy pastimes of stealing and eating one another's lunch. When will that day be mine? Today, that remembrance of being with you came to me in a very nice way. Feeling great longing, I called out for you. O Lord Krishna, only because I am your eternal servant do I desire your association so much. Except for you, I have no other refuge." Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So in an orderly fashion, and I apologise that we can't talk more. I had about 10 times more things I wanted to say, to be honest with you, and they're all wonderful about these Krishna and the cowherd boys and this pastime. Anyway, so cows are served, worshipped and protected. They're the three main things that we do with cows. So we're going to do to keep it safe for everybody. We're going to turn the electric fence off. We're going to get everyone to go down the long ways down between here and the fountain, so that we're spread out, so the cows don't all bunch up and beat each other up. And we're going to have some treats and bananas and carrots and sweets, and you can all... we were going to do a formal puja, but we're going to keep it simple this year. We're going to just feed the cows, give them a scratch. It's described, if you give them a good scratch under the neck, Krishna is very pleased. He mentions in the Uddhava Gita in 11th canto, worshipping the cow is equal to worshipping me, and mainly we worship the cow by scratching them and feeding them, keeping them happy and safe. And cows always were people in traditional culture. It's just hard in the West, we don't have the time, but they were the cowherd boys all day long, and then they would walk back to their homes, and there they were sheltered, they were looked after, milked, taken care of, and again in the morning they would go out. So always with people, never alone. They're eternally domesticated animals. There's no such thing as a wild cow. Never a moment in history where a cow was left alone, at least in the civilized world. So Gopastami ki jai. So we have some helpers here out there. Helpers. Can you so come around here towards the fountain and spread out. And everyone, this is Go Brahmana Itaicha. We're going to worship the cow before we worship our own breakfast. Very nice. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Gopastami ki jai, Krishna and the cowboys ki jai. And Krishna was initiated by the name of Gopal today. Gopal. And Srila Prabhupada, how about Balaram? What happened to him? He was initiated and given the name? Prabhupada said, what do you call him? Plowboy. Prabhupada said he's plowboy. Halada. Yes. He's a plowboy. Gaur Pamanandi. So leave the microphone on, everybody, please.